First, I want a show of hands of how many of you truly think you're happy. I expected a little more. Anyways, my point is that I am aiming to disprove all of you tonight. But first, let's focus on some more palatable issues, like absurd behaviors on the internet. This is a phenomenon known as planking, if you didn't already know. It's an act that basically people try to resemble a plank. I don't know where putting it, or they lie on things, I guess. Anyways, people have been quite taken by this idea of planking and posting pictures of it on Facebook. Now, my question is, how can you possibly describe why somebody would plank? Why would somebody plank? Richard Dawkins came up with a really interesting idea of cultural evolution that is supposed to be a direct analog to genetic evolution. And in the same way that a gene replicates, a meme, which is the replacement in cultural evolution of a gene, also replicates. Now notice that in order for a gene to replicate really successfully, it has nothing to do with the merit of the gene, as long as it doesn't harm the reproductive health of its host. Similarly, a meme can replicate fantastically without having any merit. A good example is Rebecca Black's song, Friday. The song has insidiously latched onto my mind, and I'm sure a lot of the others of you here, and I can't get it out. So, how about a clip? So if any of you are familiar with the song, you'll know that she literally rehearses the days of the week. It's undeniably just a terrible song, but yet it has millions and millions of views on YouTube. And rather ironically, there are 155,000 dislikes and only 55,000 likes. So it's very unpopular. So while being very unpopular, while we universally hate it, we all know it, and all of you right now are unwittingly humming it in your heads. So my argument is that happiness is a meme. Just like planking, just like Rebecca Black's Gotta Get Down on Friday. It makes sense that happiness would be a very successful meme. It offers a very easy heuristic to make decisions in life, whether to get married or not, what type of job to have, etc. So I conducted a survey in which around roughly 300 people participated to try to get to see really what people think happiness is. My first question was, how does Western culture define happiness? And out of the 300 participants, more than 50% responded, financial security. On the other hand, when I asked what defines life success, where I was really trying to get a personal notion of happiness, people responded, meaningful relationships. So my first observation is that there's a remarkable discrepancy between people's personal notions, which is presumably meaningful relationships, and people's sort of cultural notions of success and happiness, which is financial security. My second observation is that there is a remarkable amount of conformity with both of these responses. People conformed on the cultural definition and also recognized almost universally the personal definition. So I feel that this is a compelling enough argument that both varieties of happiness are indeed memes. These memes have had tremendous effects on us, and yes. So let me just make clear that happiness is a meme, and the popularity of an idea, right, doesn't indicate the merit of the idea, as I said earlier. Just like the potency of a drug doesn't indicate how good it is for your body. And we are all unwittingly under the influence of culture. So this doesn't automatically preclude happiness as a good idea in and of itself. It just means that we shouldn't automatically subscribe to it without further evidence. But it is my claim that the idea of happiness itself as a reachable goal is fundamentally flawed. And here's why. Desires create the conditions of happiness. Once a desire is satiated, we feel a sense of brief elation, of temporary happiness. But I assure you that that happiness will soon subside and be filled with boredom or a newfound unhappiness. Now, wealth is happiness, the meme for wealth is happiness, as indicated by my survey, has been tremendously successful. It has been so successful because the conditions for unhappiness propel people to want to be wealthy. Now, once we're wealthy, we're either bored, or we have such an insatiable desire to be wealthy that we forever delay the happiness that could be afforded to us. So wealth as a meme, wealth is happiness as a meme, is flawed. And if it wasn't flawed, then every investment banker on Wall Street would have retired and moved to Florida by now. But they don't. And the reason that they don't is because they're compelled by the journey. People don't care, it's not about the money, it's about the journey to get there. So there's this lurking unhappiness in all of our lives. So I have a few questions for you. Do any of you have unfulfilled desires? Do any of you want things that you don't already have? If the answer is yes to any of these, it is my contention that you are dissatisfied. Let me assure you that if you fulfill any of these goals, it'll only be a very temporary elation that you feel afterwards. And then you'll be bored, and again dissatisfied, and again it's a vicious cycle, essentially. Now this might sound cynical, but it's only because the meme of happiness has convinced all of us that there is some ideal permanent resting state of happiness that we can reach. And that's simply not true. It is the journey that we should embrace, that it includes both dissatisfaction and satisfaction. But that's all we have, is this finite time, this journey. In addition to that, we can never know if our pursuits, or what will ensue from our pursuits. That's impossible to know. A good family friend of mine told me when I was younger, he said, "Jimmy, since a young age, I've always wanted to be extraordinarily wealthy, because I thought everybody would love me. Once I became wealthy, I realized this wasn't true, and it was genuinely one of the saddest days of my life." And, not to be depressing, but this quote was meant to serve as that you can never prescribe a route to promise you happiness in any way. It is my argument that what we really want isn't happiness. What we want is meaning. And meaning comes in many forms. But when we feel effective, when we feel like we've done something, that's when we feel that we have meaning. Living, breathing, being. In our lives, inherent, we have meaning. Happiness is an easy creed that easily glosses over, is an empty creed rather, that easily glosses over the rest of our lives. The only advice I can give is to close the gap as much as possible between the ends and the means. The ends being happiness, and the means being the journey towards happiness. Because the smaller that gap becomes, the more satisfaction we can glean from our lives. I say, let's abandon this meme of happiness. Let's embrace the pursuit instead. Thank you.